Welcome to Focused on Forward. The purpose of this podcast is to focus on recovery from life situations, be it a disease, chronic or acute, perhaps the loss of someone so dear to you in death, or a change of life patterns that has affected you so profoundly that you have no choice but to find your new normal and become focused on moving forward. Each episode is designed to show the positivity that people bring to each and every one of their stories, the successes they've had, ways that they have become so definitively focused on moving forward. We look forward to sharing their stories, and we hope that they inspire you just as much as they have inspired us. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Good afternoon, and welcome to Focused on Forward. Today's guest is D-Rek Canas. He's got a very interesting story for us, a story of recovery, a story of overcoming, and a story of what it takes to keep focused on forward. So D-Rek, we're anxious to hear your story. We're looking forward to it. So anytime you're ready, please go ahead and get started.
My story starts when I was 3 months old, and I was taken to my 3-month checkup. And the doctor noticed that whenever I would cry, it would my lips would turn a little bit blue, kind of purple. And I became what was known back in the late 80s as a blue baby. And I was sent to a cardiologist to have further checkup and to see what was going on. And when I got up to Augusta, which is where I was treated at Medical College of Georgia, they realized I had what was known as transposition of the great arteries, which meant that my heart was pumping blood backwards. My body was getting unoxygenated blood, and oxygenated blood was being flowed around my heart instead of going out as it should have. So that needed surgery, and it was immediate surgery. I was taken, I believe, a day or two after, if not sooner, into surgery. And the surgery required blood transfusions. And my family tried to donate blood, but it was too urgent. The hospital didn't have time. They didn't want to have to go through that process. So we went ahead with surgery and recovery. And that was I'm not sure how long the surgery was, but it was heart surgery in the 80s, so I'm assuming it was pretty much like a horror movie. There wasn't, like now you see surgeries on TV, and surgeries even in person are virtually bloodless. Back then, it was pretty gruesome. There's bone saws. Every bone in my chest has been broken and stapled back together. I am, and during the surgery, they interrupted the stenotic node of the heart, which is the electrical powerhouse of your heart. So I required a pacemaker, which I'm sure my parents were delighted to learn that they now had a battery operated kid. And I made it out of surgery, luckily, and 3 months in intensive care with some touch and go moments, kidneys having problems, different lung issues, this and that, and finally made it home 3 months later, power pack and all, and just started living life and, being a kid as much as I could be. Mom didn't really allow too many sports because I had an infant pacemaker. So it was in my stomach. So there wasn't too many baseball games, karate. I grew up always wanting to be the karate kid, and I never really got the chance. So my major health ailment was pacemaker batteries. Those were my biggest enemies. They lasted, first one lasted 10 years. So 10 years of age, I'm getting my second pacemaker implanted. And that is pretty pretty easy experience considering all this stuff I've been through.
So that required another surgery then.
Yeah, it is a surgery, but it's a pretty easy one. It's outpatient pretty
Well, in
much.
comparison, right. So this one you said
Yeah.
for the battery pack that was in your stomach, you said for the pacemaker now?
Yeah, and when they replace them, it's a full replacement. They replace a pacemaker itself, and they leave the lead wires that go to the heart. So they just it's like plugging in headphones into a new MP3 player, basically. As crazy as that sounds, that's what it looks like if you see it on an X-ray.
Okay.
So that happened at the age of 10. And then around 12, 13, it starts getting noticed I'm not growing on pace with the rest of the kids in class, with other family members. I grew up, I have a cousin that's 3 months younger than me. So family had a real good monitor of where I was, growth and health and weight wise throughout the years. And the range started to become quite evident as 12, 13, 14 hit, that I was falling behind and pretty rapidly. And then at 15, I had to have my third pacemaker implanted. And I'm cleared for that one, go up, have the surgery. And I come out of surgery, anesthesia, very, very rough. I'm not breathing. I'm not breathing to the point that they actually have to physically do CPR on me and post-op to get me to start breathing again. But I made a home from that, luckily, made a home, but I had a cough, a really, really bad cough, and I couldn't get rid of it. So I couldn't get cleared to go back to school. And so I went to a new doctor in town, to a pulmonologist. And I walked into his office and he immediately said, "What's wrong with you?" And my reaction was, "Nice to meet you too, doc. I have a bad heart." And he started to inform me that my heart had zero to do with my height and weight. As I presented in his office at 15, I was 4 foot tall and just over 50 pounds. So there was something there. And this man ran me through every test you can imagine that he could think of, that he was qualified to do. And everything came back negative. I didn't have it. So he said, "You need somebody smarter than me." And he decides to send me to the one place you don't send a Georgia Bulldog fan, which is to the swamp. He sent me to the University of Florida.
Enemy territory. Nice.
Yeah, not a place I wanted to be. But there I started going to see an endocrinologist, and they started giving me human growth hormones. And it was the exact same stuff that, if you remember a few years ago, the Major League Baseball players started getting
Oh,
busted left,
yeah,
right
yeah,
for
with Mark
using.
McGuire and Sammy Sosa and all that stuff.
That's what I was using.
Okay.
And it works. It really, really works. It's about want to say just over a year, I gained a foot in height and over 50 pounds in weight. So they knew what they were doing taking it. I missed taking it. It was great. It was great stuff. Still is great stuff. And one day I went for a checkup and my doctor was there and another girl was with her. And I was a little, "Who is this?" And I found out that my doctor was using my case to train medical students because my doctor was the head of the department. So what it means is she was taking my medical charts and they blot out my name, any personal info of me, and the students just get a folder that says you have a patient presents like this, and this. Where do you go from here?
Right. So she was presenting statistical information to the students.
One student realized that I had had blood in 1985 and never had an HIV test. So it was sheer luck that somebody had that idea because it never crossed my mind. It never crossed my family's mind. And I submitted to the test. And 2 weeks later, that's how many years ago this was. Now you can get a test and in 5 minutes, you know your results. But it was 2 weeks later, I went back and I got a positive result. And I was diagnosed with AIDS. It had progressed to the point of AIDS. And I had wasting syndrome, which means my body was physically to the point it was shutting down. It was getting ready to die. And then I met my medical team for that new condition. So that was probably one of the longest days of my life.
Now, what year was it when you? Because you said now the you got the blood in 1985. No test was given. What year was it now when you received your test and got the positive confirmation?
2001.
2001. Okay, so 16 years.
Want to say it was April of 2001.
And so how old were you at that time when you
16?
You were 16. So
Yeah.
how did that affect you at 16 years of age, knowing that this is the outcome of what you had gone through?
I thought I was dead. I honestly, when I heard the word AIDS, I thought I was dead. And then I met a doctor that would end up treating me. And the first thing he told me was I was going to go to his funeral. He wasn't going to go to mine.
Well, if nothing else, you had to love this positivity.
Yeah. And his cockiness, that kind of gave me.
Yeah, I'll take a little cockiness from a doctor.
I mean, that was that was an unexpected punch in the chest. I was like, all right, prove it. And that's really what the relationship with me and him became. It was a friend doctor. I mean, I don't know how to explain it really well, but he ended up becoming a doctor I looked forward to going to see because we turned everything kind of into a game. Because there's a lot with HIV, and you get viral loads, and you got CD4 counts, which are the cells that fight infection. And so he kind of helped. He liked my idea of looking at it as a video game. The more I took the meds, the more the viral load dropped, the CD4 count went up. We're winning the game. And he got me to undetectable within a year and a half. And that's from me having zero. I think I had zero T cells. So I had, if it wasn't zero, it was as close to zero as I could have gotten and still been alive. So I mean, he literally pulled me out of the grave.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So why did you choose to look at it like a video game? Let me ask you that.
Because I grew up playing video games. That was a part of my life since I was probably 3. I remember having the original Nintendo with Duck Hunt.
Oh, sure. Good times.
And so it took me out of it. It kind of took me out of it and let me look at it from an outside perspective and be able to look at the numbers. And if something wasn't right, all right, let's strategize how to get it right. So it was I don't know, it was kind of a military way of looking at it. It was kind of a strategic way of looking at it. Either way, it took me standing outside of it to be able to overtake what I had to, the obstacles that were in front of me.
Okay. Well, that's understandable, and I think sometimes for recovery to happen, you have to take the personal aspect out of it and be able to look at it a little cold, a little callously, but it's what I think sometimes is needed to be able to move forward.
That's exactly what I had to do because being 16 and that diagnosis, it just shredded anything I thought I was or was going to be. I mean, those are the years when you're figuring all that out
Right.
and it's got ripped apart. So I was able to rebuild whatever person I wanted to be. And I did a really bad job, I'll admit to this, that, when I picked up all the parts, I mean, I picked up a lot of ego, a little bit of charm, and a lot of stubbornness. I mean, just the things I needed to get me to the next day. There was no point in me trying to pick up, things that wouldn't get me to tomorrow. And I knew exactly what I needed.
Okay. So now you're at the point where you're about 17 or so years old. What happens from this point?
I I dropped out of high school and I just went and got a GED because school, at this point with the meds, I every day was waking up, feeling different. I couldn't maintain a school schedule. So I just went ahead and, called that part. I was like, I'll just get this done. There's certain little things that you start prioritizing, and that was on the list. So I took that off the list, got that done. And then I went and got my first job as a waiter. And it was hilarious. It was fun. It was one of the coolest jobs. I look back on that job. I hated it when I was in it sometimes, but I miss it when I look back on it. I guess everybody's first job's kind of like that. You got to get past it and look back to kind of laugh at it.
Yeah, first jobs are never glory jobs, that's for sure.
But the first job, I met a girl on the job, and she became a really, really good friend of mine, really good supporter, and started sneaking me in a local little nightclub. And there was a little karaoke club, and we would sneak in there. Well, she would sneak me in there. She wasn't sneaking in there. And I would just hang out. I would have fun. I wasn't drinking. I would just drink a Coke, hang back, and enjoy the night. Well, about 2 years into it, 2 or 3 years into it, I'm not sure. I got the courage up to grab the karaoke book. I started looking through it. And this is right when everybody got the flip phones that had the camera, had the little camera on the back. So I'm flipping through and I find a song. I turn it in. And even the DJ looks at me like I'm crazy. He's like, "Really? You've been coming here for years. You've never done this. Now all of a sudden, you're going to try this out. Yeah, let's try it. And I sang probably one of the most well-known sing-along songs, and probably one of the songs that a majority of people will say they hate, but they know every word to. And that's Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah.
And the club had wireless microphones. They had just got them. So I ran through this entire bar and I got the entire place standing up and singing.
Nice.
And singing so loud I couldn't hear the music. And we had fun that night. I went home, didn't think anything about it. And next night, my phone goes off, and it's a number I don't know, so I answer it. It's the club owner, and he introduces himself, and he goes, "Heard about what you did last night." I said, "You heard about that, huh?" He goes, "Yeah, and I've seen videos. My phone's been getting videos all day." He said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "I'm not doing anything." He said, "I would love it if you would come up and do it again." I said, "All right." So I went back up to the club. And the funny thing was, this was when CD burners were big. So I was making mixed CDs with music that had made their way into his club. Well, his guys didn't know a lot of this music. So I made a deal with them. I said, I'll hang out with the DJ, help him with the music selection, if he'll teach me how to do the job. The owner said deal automatically. He said, I don't care how my guy feels. He said, it's a deal.
This was fair trade, in my opinion.
So I kept his club packed by doing crazy stunts, by keeping the music on point. And eventually I took off on my own little DJ career and started jumping from club to club all around town and build my name as a DJ.
Okay.
And
What's
that was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life was being able to do that. I made it all the way from the little small town karaoke bar to working over on St. Simon's Island, which is about 20 minutes from my house. But it was the largest bar in the area. It held over 700 people.
Oh wow.
So I was able to play at a club on Friday and Saturday nights. I took over Friday and Saturday nights there, I want to say 5 years ago. And that's 700 people a night that
Nice.
would come in to see me, and I boosted their revenues like crazy. And I've played at Senior Frogs. I've traveled down to Orlando. I use a DJ system that's called it's Touchscreen Innovations Elite DJ System.
Okay.
It's a 46-inch piece of glass, and the DJ software is projected onto it. So when I'm on stage, it looks like one of the screens Iron Man would use,
Oh
or
yeah,
if you
okay.
or if you've seen the movie Minority Report,
Sure.
that's exactly what it looks like with me.
Oh, that's cool.
I write messages to the crowd. I mean, it's an insane show. I became known as a performance DJ because I would that Ziggy's, the big place on St. Simon's. I had an entire stage, so I would use the entire stage the entire night. I would bring people on stage. They would sing along. We would pack. I mean, it was just insane. I ended up, and my thing that I always love is that I took D-Rek, who was a kid with all these medical issues and all these terrible things. And I got people to see that guy as DJ D-Rek, who is, just this wild man on stage. And so I think of myself as kind of a magician. And the fact that I was able to do that, I'm able to completely transform somebody's opinion of me depending on what time of the day it is.
So based on your performance instead of who you are.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can I can have somebody either look at me as one persona or another, depending on what I want them to see.
Okay.
It's- And it's kind of it's really a coping mechanism. It's probably not a healthy one, but it's one I use a lot.
Well, I think there are much more unhealthy coping mechanisms that people use. I don't. So I think you're okay there. In my my unlicensed, unprofessional opinion. So are you still DJing now, or is that something you no longer do?
It's pretty much been sidelined because of COVID.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah,
up
COVID.
until the point of COVID shutting everybody down, this was something you were doing then.
Yeah, I got away from the nightclubs about 2.5 years ago, taking a little break, and I was doing just weddings, birthdays, just doing some smaller stuff, give myself a break. 13 years in nightclubs, it wears on you. You've done it.
Yeah,
Once you
I can only imagine.
there, yeah. I mean, once you've had you get so many epic nights and so many crazy stories, you don't need to keep adding to that book. So I took a little time off and I got bored, which I knew would happen. And I decided that I'd look back at my life story and I thought maybe I could help people. Maybe I could do something. And
Okay.
I started the In the Stigma campaign. And it is a campaign to bring awareness to HIV and AIDS patients around the country. And we do different walks, events, virtual events, different. I'm on a couple different boards. We've done 3 toy drives past couple of years that have been huge successes.
Awesome.
I call up my friends. I call the Grinch. I call Santa, and I call up some friends with some wild classic cars. And I also call up my cop friends, and we create a mini parade from a toy drive location and take them all to a hospital to waiting patients that are just in awe because they get to see Santa, they meet the Grinch, they get to meet the cops, they get to check out cop cars. The
Okay.
parents are usually checking out the classic cars. They're wanting to see the inside the cop cars. It's a huge event.
Sounds like it. Now, where does this take place at? Down in Georgia?
Yeah, down in Brunswick, Georgia. We've done 3 of them. I've done 2 to benefit the local hospital and 1 to benefit Wolfson Children's Hospital in Jacksonville.
Okay. Nice.
And they've been great. We've altogether, I think we've raised over $10,000 and 800 toys, I believe.
Oh, that's awesome.
And underneath that, I started this thing. They're called D-Rek's Angels and Warriors, which is kind of my street team. We have wristbands and shirts for them. And I also have these little plush dogs that I've created that we send out to kids that are in the hospital fighting different ailments.
Okay.
I'll send you pictures of all the stuff. And
That'd be great.
it's just something that when I can't be there, it reminds people to keep fighting and, that there's always, something to keep fighting for. Keep your head up, keep moving forward.
Now, is that something that I know it's something you're active in, but is that something that's active year round, or is it a seasonal type of thing that you participate in?
The the campaign or the toy drives or
The campaign.
no, the campaign I do nonstop all year. I have my own website, so I'm all the time posting there about what we're doing and where we're going and what virtual drives we're a part of. This and that. It's nonstop.
Why don't you share that website real quick with the listeners?
The website is DerekCanas.com, DerekCanas.com.
Can they donate or help from that website?
Yes, there's a message tab there. There may be a fun tab. I'm not sure. The support dogs are there. You can buy them, have them sent to you. I've got to get the wristbands and the shirts. I got to get a photographer to take some nice pictures for me
Okay.
and put them up there. We're building the shop currently. It was something that I was kind of lax on for a minute, but now I'm really, with COVID, I've jumped on that more. So we're doing more and more there.
Okay. Excellent. So, how is your health today?
Today I'm doing as good as I can be. I'm currently on my fifth pacemaker. I know we only talked about three, but there's been two more.
Okay.
The third one I killed totally, which was by mistake. I promise I didn't kill it intentionally. I went to a cardiologist regular checkup and they went to check everything and the machine wasn't working. So they came in, tried another machine, didn't work. Then they took my pulse and blood pressure manually, and I was immediately shuffled into a room and told to lay down. I'm sitting up on my phone. My doctor walks in with a clipboard and he goes, "You don't listen at all, do you?" And I just kind of laughed and I said, "Usually, what's going on?" And he said, "Well, your heart rate is pretty low." I said, "What does pretty low mean?" And the nurse came over and she put my left hand on my chest. And I felt boom, boom, boom. He said, "Does that feel normal?" I said, "Feels all right to me." I said, "I ran 2 miles yesterday, doc. What's up?" He said, "Your heart rate is resting at 39 beats a minute. You're an alligator." I said, "How does that happen?" He said, "Apparently, the last time you were here and we did a battery check, we got a bad reading. And whatever happened between 6 months, between that, I completely killed the pacemaker. The pacemaker wouldn't even light up on the machine."
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you know anything about pacemakers, but they take you up to a bunch of leads and then they put a magnet over it. And usually, when the magnet is placed over it, it pops up like a hard drive would on your
Hmm.
computer, and you just double click it and you read a report. Mine would not even light up. So it was completely dead in the water. So they repaired that, put a new one in. I think they did, what did we do with that? I think there were 5 procedures there. Oh, they took the old one out, put the new one went in my shoulder. So I have an adult pacemaker now with two leads leading from it. And I still have two leads from the original three pacemakers. So I have wires that are just hanging down in my stomach, down towards my stomach. And I have a battery box and wires in my shoulder currently.
Oh,
So
interesting. Okay.
I am really not fun to fly with.
I would- I'm
I
sure you
am
set
the
off a few alarms.
I am the guy that gets to meet the TSA agents, probably three or four usually. And I have a card, I have paperwork, I have all the stuff I'm supposed to have.
Oh, I'm
Explain I explain it, they laugh, they get a cool story, they get a cool picture on their screen that they're usually shocked about. I don't know if they can screen grab or keep or any of that, but anyway, they're always shocked. They're always like, how in the world?
yeah.
But they
I'm
put the fourth pacemaker they did that, and they did a cardio version, which I don't recommend to anybody ever to have. I had to have a cardio version because my heart had fell out of rhythm.
I'm familiar with that.
Are you familiar with the cardio version?
Yes. I had to have
Yeah,
several.
yeah, not recommended, would you?
It's not a lot of fun.
No,
I
I've never
had
had my
go ahead.
I've never had my eyelashes hurt.
Yeah, I had severe atrial fibrillation for a few years, and so I was cardio inverted several times.
Jeez, so you know about it.
Yeah, yeah, always fun to always fun to have that happen.
Yeah,
But
but I had so after that pacemaker, we can fast forward to what happened next. Was I get up one day and I get on Facebook, start the day like everybody else does, and I look at the memories that they like to occasionally show.
sure,
Memory is a picture of me and my mom in a hospital waiting room getting the fourth pacemaker done. And it says 8 years ago. Okay, seems like a little while. And I have not been keeping up with any of the pacemaker checks. I haven't even been keeping up with the cardiologist at this point. I was busy DJing. That's how young and stupid I was. So I start scrambling around trying to. I find the box that I'm supposed to use to check the pacemaker. Try to use it. You have to plug it into a landline. So finally get a hold of a landline, plug it in, doesn't work. So I have to call the company and they have to send me another piece to add to it. I found out I was trying to send a fax to a company that now only wants email. So I get all that, put it all together, finally send the report, and 22 hours later, my phone is ringing and it's a very unhappy cardiologist.
I'm sure.
And he says, I thought you were dead or had found a new doctor. I said, I'm not dead. I didn't find a new doctor. What are you doing Thursday? He said, it ain't about what I'm doing Thursday. It's about you need to be here Thursday. I said, yes, sir. I'll be there Thursday. So it's 6 a.m. I come rolling in and they put in the fifth pacemaker and he sends me home. He said, I'll program it in 2 months. All right, do it 2 months. I'm sitting at home and my phone goes off, and it's my cousin who I grew up with, lives in San Diego, and he is a Navy corpsman. which is funny to me. He got in the medical field because I'm always like, where were you 20 years ago? I could have used you.
Right.
And he calls me and he goes, "How you feeling?" I said, "I'm great. I'm at home. I'm in a heated massage chair. What's up?" He goes, "You're home?" I said, "Yeah, I'm home. What's up?" He goes, "What? How in the hell are you home?" I said, "It was a 2.5 hour procedure. They did it at 6. I was home at noon. What's up?" He goes, "I just can't believe you're sitting at home." He goes, "How's your pain level?" I said, "I'm fine." He goes, what about your bandage? How are you bandaged up? Your shoulder's all right? Blah, blah, blah. I said, "There's no bandage. I'm good." I said, "They stitched the muscle and they glued the skin." He goes, "Are you freaking kidding me? They sent you home like that?" I said, "Yes, they sent me home like that." So he's freaking out and calling family freaking out. So I calm everybody down. I'm like, "Look, I got to go back in 2 months. Y'all can freak out then. That's when I'm going to freak out," because they had to do a lot when I went back. When I went back, I had to be on a injectable blood thinner for a week before they would even do the procedure because I couldn't have any blood clots.
Sure.
So I did all that. I get down there, and before they do it, they ran a scope through my neck, down behind my heart, check everything, look at all that, make sure everything's good. Then they ran a cath up my left leg and found out the artery dead end somewhere in my upper torso. It just stops. That's how many cath labs I've been in. That artery just said, "Yeah, we're not gonna let you in here anymore." So they had to start their procedure again in the right leg. Right leg goes all the way up through, and that begins. I think they did an cardiac aversion there to reset. Yeah, they did that to start the day, which I was out this time, so it didn't bother me as much.
Right.
And then they that started a what would be 8 hour cardiac ablation procedure, which is where they map your heart out. They do a 3D rendering of your heart, and then they go in and find all the spots where the electrical interruptions are.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a video of this, and I've never seen so many yellow dots on a screen in my life. I completely understand why it took 8 hours.
A lot of work to do. Sure.
It took so long that my doctor took the next day off. I was discharged by a nurse and a note from him saying, "Have a happy Good Friday. I'm home. You're going home. This is how we do Good Friday." And that has started, the past 2.5 years have been great. I felt better than I have in a long, long time. I forgot what normal breathing was. I had to learn to breathe again. That's how damaged my heart muscle was.
Yeah, the only way I can relate to that is I had to have an ablation as well to correct my atrial fibrillation, and it was like night and day before I went into the hospital and when I came out. When I
Yeah,
woke up from the surgery, even though I was sore from everything that happening around um, I felt a million times better because everything was working as it should, and then I had forgotten what that felt like.
oh yeah. The night I spent in the hospital, it was a nurse just constantly coming in, going, breathe because my oxygen kept dropping. She goes, just breathe. She said, take a deep breath, hold it, let it out through your mouth. And she had to keep reminding me to do that. She goes, you're breathing, everything is different now. I said, well, nobody told me that. They should put that in the packet before they sell this.
Somewhere in the pamphlet tell you that that's a mandatory thing.
Yeah.
So you had that 2.5 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And so heart wise, short of the pacemaker, still you're doing better then.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get them right now to put a new pacemaker that came out, which is called the Mitra, which goes inside the heart.
Okay.
Because I'm a very thin frame. I'm not heavy. The pacemaker is easily visible in my chest, and
Okay.
I just don't like the look of it. If I could get rid of that and still maintain a pacemaker, that's what I'm after.
So would it require open heart surgery then for that to happen?
No, it's a calf. They actually run
Oh,
it
okay.
through a calf, and it's the size of I think it's less than the size of a quarter,
Oh, wow.
but it's a cylindrical little thing with prongs, and it's got a button, and they push it down on the heart, and the prongs spring back and attach to the heart.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's RFID. Like my current pacemaker is Bluetooth. I have a remote. Yeah, I'm remote controlled. I make my friends send in the pacemaker transmissions when it's time for a report.
Uh-huh.
I make YouTube videos with my friends where they scan it in because I've done such a bad job of the past 20 years doing it myself. I don't trust me to do it anymore.
So it's kind of like when you were 16, kind of making a game of it again.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Hey, whatever gets the job done, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So it sounds like overall, um, as much as you can, it sounds like your health has rebounded and you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, it's still day by day, but I'm feeling great.
Sure. Take the good with the bad. So here's a question for you, D-Rek. It's a question that I ask every one of our guests, and not to minimize your life situations or anything that you've gone through, but if you were to, look at the story of your life, what's the one thing that you would want somebody to focus on? What's the shareable moment?
Keep fighting. Keep fighting. I grew up in the 80s. I mean, I grew up wanting to be the Karate Kid. I wanted to be Rocky. I wanted to be that character. And so I did my best to create it through my own life.
So, and I think that's pretty evident in the way that you've told your story, and that sounds like you never had quit on your vocabulary, at least when it came to those things.
Yeah. I mean, I have the Rocky speech to his son is I listen to that at least once a week, where he talks about it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep going.
So use that as motivation.
Yeah.
All right. I know which one you're talking about. I'll probably have to go back and listen to it just so I can place it all in my memory. But I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, he's just telling his son about how life beats you down and it'll keep you there if you let it.
Okay. Very good. Well, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Um I wrote a book. I forgot to even mention that.
You wrote a book. You got to tell us about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's available on the website. So you got a lot of funny stories, a lot of things we weren't able to really talk about here today, but some funny stories from the hospital stays. I mean, stuff. There's some great stuff in there. I mean, there's a story I believe's in there. I hope's in there. If not, I went into one surgery in Gainesville, really cocky, wearing Georgia Bulldog pajama pants, and I came out of surgery covered from head to toe in Florida Gator temporary tattoos.
That's awesome.
So
At least they had a good sense of humor.
have fun with your medical team, but beware of your medical team when it comes to football and sports rivalries.
Understood. Yeah, that could have been so much worse.
Yeah, I woke up to a nurse with a wash rag on my arm, and she goes, I got most of them off your face, and we're working on.
Oh no. Well, excellent. So that's all available at your website then, correct? The
Yeah,
books, the stuff for the plush dolls and the dogs, therapy dogs.
yep, it's all there. The book links right at the top. Social media links are all right there at the top. Little cubes.
Okay,
Well,
and
they'll
that's
take you to everything.
DerekCanas.com, correct?
Yes,
D E
sir.
DerekCanas.com. So, Derek, we very much appreciate you being on today and talking with us. It's always good to hear somebody who's had what and many people maybe from the outside looking in would think that you've had a rough go, but you certainly have a very positive frame of mind and personality. And so it's very encouraging and inspiring. So thank you for being on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. And that's going to conclude this episode of Focused on Forward. Well, that concludes another episode of Focused on Forward. To be a guest of Focused on Forward, you can reach us through Twitter at podcastfof, through our Facebook page named Focused on Forward, or through email focusedonforward@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing each and every one of your stories that has yet to be told. So until then, be safe, be kind, and be loving to one another as you stay focused on forward.